Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. Today's topic is about idealism and what is the suffering that idealism can potentially cause for you. So, what is idealism? Idealism is wishing things to be a certain way or having this ideal image of reality in your mind and hoping that everything in reality can adhere to that image. So there are several different aspects of the 9 attitudes of MBSR that are kind of don't really work. Number one, the first one that pops into my mind, of course, is acceptance. Acceptance is, this is not the opposite of that, right? Like things need to be this way. Things need to be a certain way. And if they aren't that way, then I'm not satisfied with it. Something else is beginner's mind. What makes you believe that what you think is ideal is really ideal? It must be a lot of experience in the past. And it can potentially cloud your mind from seeing the possibilities of what could be considered the good thing, and I guess I put it in quotes because when we look at things with a beginner's mind, we can see our own ego, our own backgrounds, our own history, our own experience, our own culture clouding and obscuring what the possibilities that we could see are. So this is, another one. One more, maybe the one that comes to mind more than any, is non-judgment. So there really is a very strong aspect of judgment inside of idealism. Like, this is the good thing, this is the bad thing, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. And to have that kind of etched in stone in the mind of an idealist, like really wishing things could be perfect. And when I say perfect too, it's not an objective kind of perfection, it's a subjective perfection. It's the perfection that I see in my own mind. And that, in this kind of, this ends up denying the impermanence of things, the denial of the way things are. And I think one really big aspect of the mindfulness practice is this acceptance of how things are right now, whether it be the me that's here, and right, this is the foundation of self-compassion practice as well, that for us to be able to love ourselves as we are, we have to first see ourselves as we are. And that can be really challenging for someone who wishes things to be ideal and can't even look at yourself or ourselves or myself when I'm not the ideal version of myself that I want to be. So what brought this up, and I think that's one of the things that I wanted to share with you, was that, hey, I live in Singapore. I've been here for 2 years. It's not my first time living here. I lived here from 2008 into 2012 as well. And one thing that's always bothered me about Singapore is being on the road, is that driving in Singapore, I tend to find, what is it? Well, maybe the one thing that really upsets me is that people drive really slow in the fast lane, and other people will pass them in the slow lanes, right? And I've seen somebody that's not in the fast lane, in one of the slower lanes, flashing their lights at someone in front of them instead of passing in the fast lane. I see people drifting around in their lanes, and what I do is I say, wow, I'm such a great driver and these guys all suck. I'm like, look at me. I know how to drive. I do, here, this, and things like this would never happen in the States, right? This would never happen in America. Like this is how we drive. And and just kind of going, why are drivers so bad here? And I found myself having these kind of thoughts as I was driving the other day, and realizing that these thoughts are just very unhelpful. That having these thoughts isn't going to change the situation, right? And in fact, and by the way, it's not a big deal, right? That's the other thing. I mean, there are other things that you can be upset about and be idealistic about that are a much bigger deal. And so when I caught myself through mindfulness to see that this is where my mind was going, I really realized, I'm like, look at the misery that I'm causing myself over something that isn't important, right? And let's look at objectively what are the consequences of this? It's how much time am I losing? How slowly am I getting to my destination? Right? Am I losing? Is it dangerous? Hey, if I'm such a good driver, it shouldn't matter, right? I should be able to react to whatever is going on in the road. Maybe I'm 30 seconds later to the place that I'm going than I would be otherwise. And so when I look at things realistically, I go, okay, well, this isn't a big deal, and why am I getting so upset about it? And realizing that's it, right? It is me getting upset about it. And I think the funny thing too about it is that the stress that I'm causing to myself, I can feel it. I could feel physically the kind of stress I was having about people driving, and realizing that this isn't something that I need to be so worried about. And so I'm affecting my health, I'm affecting my physical health, I'm affecting my mental health because I'm being stressed about something that I'm wishing to shove into my ideal mold. And so the question for you is, examine in your life, what are and I think the easiest things to grab are the ones that don't make any sense, the ones that are like driving. And hey, like maybe political situation is also something that we're feeling idealistic about and we want to change, and is a particular way, but that one might be a little bit harder to let go of. Start with the easy things first. Start with the bad drivers. Start with whatever other things that you feel need to fit in a particular mold. And this first step to it is to be mindful about it, is to watch your own mind. Use your mindfulness practice to see what are the things that are causing me stress that don't need to be causing me stress, that I'm stressing myself out over, one, something that is completely out of my control, and two, something that isn't a big deal. And I think that like when we look at those two things, you can see that there are potentially, and certainly in my case, plenty of things that cause stress that don't need to. And this really does have to do with this kind of idealism that that we may have for ourselves and for others around us. So thanks for listening. We have been doing a bit of self-compassion practice, and so this is also by no accident that this, these two things come together. Idealism tends to have an aspect of self-flagellation associated with it, that we look for an ideal version of ourselves. And one of the things that we may subconsciously do is be a very tough critic to ourselves. And one of the ways to soften our attitudes towards ourselves is to practice self-compassion, so that our default reaction to when we don't live up to our own idealistic, unrealistic standards is not to berate ourselves, but instead to be there for ourselves, to say, hey, it's okay. Things don't all have to go exactly the way that I want them to go. And the world will still go on. Life will still be okay, even if I don't meet my own idealistic standards. So let's let's go on. I love I love what's going on in the chat, and I want to talk about it. But let's go ahead and do our meditation practice first. So thanks everybody for your interaction. Please stick around through the meditation, and we'll get into the chat a little bit more. So find your comfortable seated posture. Or feel free to lie down. Choose a posture or a position to meditate in today that is going to be as loving and open to yourself as possible. And start by noticing your body. The crown of the head, the back of the head, the face. Notice the muscles of the face. Are you tensing up your face? Can you feel areas where the muscles are tight? See if through that awareness you can allow your face to relax. Notice your chest. Is the chest moving? Can you feel sensations in the chest as you breathe, rising as you breathe in, falling as you breathe out? Bringing awareness to the abdomen. Inflating with the inhale, deflating with the exhale. Bring awareness to the neck and shoulders. Observing the muscles in as great of detail as you can. If you find tension there, is it possible, perhaps, with using the exhale, to allow those muscles to relax? And now observing the muscles in the lower back. Observing the arms and hands. Seeing what's here. Do you find any small areas, maybe a concentrated area of discomfort, or an itch or a tingle? What do you find as you examine different parts of your body right now as we look at the arms and hands? And now observing the pelvis, everything in the pelvis area, the contact between areas of the pelvis and your supporting surface. If you're sitting or if you're lying down, your buttocks are probably in contact with something. And then observing the legs, the feet, and so here is my body. Can you open your awareness up to all of the physical sensations in the body? Welcome this body that is here now as best you can, exactly as it is in this present moment, because this is the body that's here. The ideal version of your body is not here today. This is the body that you have today. And although imperfect as it may be perceived, it is perfect and is exactly the way that is meant to be right now, or it wouldn't be here right now. The present is. Perfect and imperfect simultaneously. If it weren't perfect, how could it be here right now? Each moment is exactly the way that it is. And simultaneously has both this perfection and imperfection inside. And so knowing this perfectly imperfect version of you that exists here in this perfectly imperfect universe, is it possible for you to love yourself unconditionally right now, exactly as you are? Not the ideal version of you, knowing that there's no need in this moment to be any better or any different from how you are. You are, right now, part of this universe that is here. And you are worthy of love just as much as anything else in the universe is. So can you open your arms to yourself and love yourself right now as you are in this moment? I'm okay just as I am. And I love myself right now just the way that I am. And so maybe this is challenging. Is it helpful to use a few phrases to lean into this loving ourselves, which, by the way, is not selfish or self-centered? This is the foundation of our love for all other things, because again, you are not separate from this universe that gave rise to you. Can you love yourself right now exactly as you are? And maybe using a few phrases to support yourself can be helpful. So can you wish yourself well? So if you like, repeating these phrases after me. May I be happy and contented. May I be happy and contented. May I be safe and protected, free from inner and outer harm. May I be safe and protected, free from inner and outer harm. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible for me. May I be healthy and whole. May I be at peace. May I be at ease. May I be at peace. May I be at ease. May I have the courage to love myself exactly as I am. May I have the courage to love myself exactly as I am. And now I'll invite you to let go of these phrases. Come back to observing the body, observing what it feels like to be breathing. And now we'll draw this practice to its close with 3 rings of the bell. After you no longer hear the sound of the bell, after the 3rd ring subsides, feel free to begin to transition out of your practice by opening your eyes, stretching out, doing whatever it is that might be comfortable for you as you transition in to the period of the rest of your lives. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for sharing in this practice and this talk about idealism. I think that's it's a good way to kind of soften our ideal views of ourselves, is to do a bit of self-compassion practice. And, also to extend that practice out and to do compassion for the world at large. So even though things aren't perfect the way they are, we can send out well wishes and begin right here. Begin to change this attitude, to change ourselves, to soften ourselves so that we can be more open-minded to the possibilities that are out there. All right. Seems like the video's out of sync, but that's that's what happens sometimes. Hopefully it'll be better next time. Okay, I'm going to look through the chat now. So welcome everybody. It's Davey. It's great to see you back. Hi Rosa. Great to see you again as well. Jocelyn says, this topic is perfect timing for me, and I'm definitely not here by accident. Thanks, Jocelyn. I hope you have the courage to love yourself exactly as you are. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is that what you're talking about when it comes to idealism, but that is definitely can be part of it. Yeah, it's great. Welcome back, Davey. Rosa says, I'm always yearning for consistency, but life simply isn't consistent. Thanks so much for sharing. And Jocelyn says, becoming our ideal self is probably impossible because we are flawed beings. That's great. Thank you. Jean says, growing older and accepting the limitations of our bodies has had that effect. Yeah, and also as the stress comes of driving, you can also begin to make things more more dangerous for yourself. So just that, I mean, but driving's just an example. Of course, there are plenty of other things. I just like to use it because it's something that, well, I suppose I have a few epiphanies for mindfulness while driving, but it's because it's relatively inconsequential, that it's something that I definitely don't have control of the other drivers on the road, right? And it's something that it's easy to get upset about, but it's one of those things that isn't really worth getting upset about because there's nothing you can do about it. And so it's pretty neutral. There are lots of things that maybe we can't all agree with, but I think one thing we can agree with is that I can't control the other drivers on the road, and my stressing myself out about the way other people drive is not very helpful. And Jessica says, wow, I always thought of idealism in a positive connotation, but that's changed now. And I'm not saying to not be aware of, of how things could be better. And don't give up, right? I mean, this is the other thing that's important to understand, is that acceptance doesn't mean passive resignation. We don't just lie down and go, oh, this is how the world is. I'm stuck in this awful situation. I'm just going to, Ryan said not to look for idealism and to accept things how they are. So I'm just going to wallow in this awful situation that I'm in. I'm not trying to say that at all. It's this idea of the roadmap, right? For you to effectively use a roadmap, you have to know where you are. And so part of acceptance is seeing where I am, right now in this world, in this situation, in my life, and being able to discriminate, like what is positive, what do I have control over, what can I change, and what is not changeable, what's helpful for me, what's unhelpful for me. I think these are important things to observe, and I think longer periods of meditation can help give us insight in this as well. And Sarah says, wow, yes, a tough critic to ourselves. I've accidentally found this live, meant to be here today. Thanks, Sarah, and I appreciate you showing up. And welcome, everybody. If it's your first time joining, it's great to have you here today. I hope you've enjoyed, or maybe not enjoyed, but at least found some use out of this topic. Welcome, JD, who's possibly lurking on here, and welcome everybody who's lurking here today. Jessica says, thank you and your Singaporean traffic experience for this lesson. Thanks, Jessica, for being here. Welcome, Siffy. It's great to see you. Hello again, Alejandro. And Jean says, it always amazes me when my therapy homework and the lesson match up. Radical acceptance and radical self-gentleness and compassion is my homework this week. Thanks, Jean, for sharing. I think it's just, well, who knows, right? Who knows? Thanks, Davey, for your donation. Michelle says, what if you see someone you love limiting themselves? Do you help them or leave them to their own path towards their own ideal? And that's a really good question. And that's a very difficult question to answer, because it's unique. The experience, what you do is going to be based largely on that unique situation. The question, so this is a question of compassion. And I think the question of compassion, one, asks us to be empathic. So first, to do our best to put ourselves in the shoes of the other person. To go, okay, what is this person experiencing right now? And then once we've really fully aligned ourselves to that person and their experience as best we can, only then do we ask ourselves the question, what can I do to be of service? And when we ask that question, it becomes, we can still potentially make a mistake here, but it becomes clearer to understand how receptive is this person going to be of feedback, right? You don't want to potentially cause additional harm by giving advice to ears that aren't going to listen to it. Maybe giving advice today is going to limit your effectiveness tomorrow, right? So this is really the question, is to evaluate. Is this advice going to be helpful, or is this advice not going to be helpful? Is this advice going to be harmful? And to check ourselves. It's very often advice giving has I think almost always advice giving has a self component to it, that we want to say, hey, listen to me. I'm so right. I'm so smart. I know what's right for you, right? So it can be very, I think, especially before a big deal, do plenty of self-evaluation before choosing to give advice to another person. is it possible to lead them towards that advice themselves? But because, of course, you discover something yourself and you think that it's your own idea, it can be a lot more powerful than listening and doing something that somebody else tells you, right? And especially it goes wrong. You go, well, that's because of this person, right? Because of I took the advice of this person, so it's their fault that something went wrong, and it makes it easier for responsibility to be shirked. Sybil says, I had an idealistic idea of what my husband would be like when we married 50 years ago. How funny, definitely not realistic. Thanks for sharing that, Sybil. I think that's great, because what we discover through these close relationships is just how human we are. And I've been with my partner getting close to 20 years now. I mean, I guess it's not 50 years, but it's enough that our relationship has changed a lot, and we've learned a lot about each other, and I think we're a lot more realistic about what we can expect from each other, and to go, hey, this isn't what I'm hoping for, isn't going to happen. Is it possible for me to be realistic and go, this is, maybe I need to step up and do this because I know that this is how they are. They're unreliable. That's the word I want to use. They're unreliable in this department. They're super reliable in this other department, and they probably complement me. That's one of the reasons we're together, is that, hey, they're reliable here, I'm reliable over here, and together we work together. And maybe there's more to it as well. Maybe our love for each other helps to hold things together. There is no idealistic relationship. It just doesn't work. Think. There we go. Think before you speak. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Thanks, Gene. Let's see. One other. I'm gonna go here in a minute. So. Outcomes. That's that. I knew there was one more thing I wanted to say, is that the attachment to outcomes is also part of idealism. So remember that you can have an effect. You can do your best and do what you think is most helpful, but in the end, the outcome is whatever the outcome is. So see if you can let go and just go, I did my best. Can I just let go of whatever else is out there? Thanks everybody for joining today. You can, as I said, I'll be back in 48 hours to do one more practice, to talk a little bit about just go back to the basics of mindfulness. So not to be so complicated with the lesson, but really, as I'm sending you off to practice during the holidays, to remind you of some simple tips on how to do mindfulness practice. So come back, join Ryan's Daily Mindfulness Circle so that you have some community and some support over the holidays to continue meditating. As I think we all know, meditating every day is better than meditating once a week or once a month. So do come back. Having a community to support you and to meditate with can be very supportive and helpful in your practice. So let's close practice the way that we do, which is with some well wishes to ourselves and to everyone else. So follow along if you like. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching, listening, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all sentient life on this world, on this planet, around the universe, may we all be happy and peaceful to the best of our ability. Okay, take care. See you again soon. Bye-bye.